Black CEO removed from first-class minutes later. She grounds a $700M airline empire. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Step aside. I'm priority. The words cracked through the quiet cabin like a whip. A dozen heads turned. Phones lifted. The hum of the engines faded beneath the sharp hiss of humiliation. She stood in the aisle, pearls gleaming against a cream suit, manicured finger jabbing like a blade. Every inch of her posture screamed entitlement. Across from her, seated by the window, Marcus Cole didn't move. A dark blue suit, tie perfectly aligned, laptop open to a muted document that no one bothered to notice. The woman's voice rose again, slicing the air. You heard me. This seat is for priority passengers, not you. The pause before that final word was deliberate, soaked in venom. The flight attendant froze midway down the aisle, torn between duty and discomfort. The pilot's shadow appeared at the cockpit door. Someone gasped. In first class, silence had weight. It pressed down like cabin pressure. Marcus looked up slowly, eyes calm, too calm. The kind of stillness that made arrogance feel suddenly fragile. I believe this is my seat, he said softly. No tremor, no apology, just fact. Her laugh was brittle. Oh, I'm sure it's some mistake. These seats cost more than most people make in a month. She leaned closer, voice dropping to a hiss. You people always think, ma'am. The attendant's tone broke through, polite but strained. Please, lower your voice. But she didn't. She turned, rallying the cabin with her indignation. This is ridiculous. I've flown with this airline for 20 years. Do you even know who I am? Marcus tilted his head, gaze steady. No, he said. Do you know who I am? Her mouth opened, ready to fire back. But something in his tone, the quiet confidence, the certainty made her falter for half a breath. Then the laughter came, nervous and hollow, rippling through the rows like static. A man in the next seat whispered, "This is going viral." Someone's phone camera flashed red. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Marcus. The pilot stepped forward, all smiles wrapped in corporate caution. Sir, perhaps we can sort this out quietly? Marcus's gaze never wavered. Quietly, he repeated, as if tasting the word. That's what you tell people when you want them to disappear. The woman folded her arms. Exactly, let's not make a scene. He closed his laptop gently, the faint click echoing like punctuation. Ma'am, he said, his voice low but clear. You just made a mistake. For the first time, she blinked confusion, flickering behind the confidence. What did you say? He met her eyes. You'll remember this flight. Everyone will. The flight attendant swallowed hard. The pilot shifted his stance. The rest of the cabin held its breath. Outside, the tarmac shimmered in late afternoon light, a still moment before turbulence. Marcus leaned back in his seat, phone in hand. Not anger, not pride, just precision. He tapped a single message to his assistant. Ground it. And as the engines began to roar for takeoff, no one in that cabin, not the woman, not the crew, not even the captain, had the faintest idea that within the next hour, a $700 million empire would come crashing to the ground. The hum of the engines deepened as the aircraft taxied toward the runway, but inside the cabin, time felt suspended. The woman had retreated one step, her anger cooling into something sharper embarrassment dressed as authority. She turned toward the attendant. Are you seriously allowing this? I said he's in my seat. The attendant hesitated, eyes darting between them. Ma'am, his boarding pass. I don't care about his boarding pass, she snapped, her voice rising again. People make mistakes. It's not noted helm, it's noticed wrong. The irony, heavy as cabin air, hung between every row. Marcus remained silent. He watched her, the way an architect studies a cracked pillar not out of pity but precision. The faint hum of air conditioning became the only sound, a mechanical heartbeat inside a pressurized cage of judgment. Row by row, the audience took sides without speaking. Some passengers avoided eye contact, pretending to scroll. Others recorded discreetly, eyes gleaming with digital righteousness. A man in a charcoal suit whispered to his wife, "She's going too far." But neither of them intervened. The woman adjusted her pearl collar, trying to reclaim control. "If management doesn't fix this, I'll ensure someone loses their job today." The attendant's polite smile began to tremble. "Ma'am, please." "No, please," she interrupted, tapping her manicured finger on the headrest in front of Marcus. "You move. Now. It is plain. The rise salvagenesis who are will of they are." Marcus turned slightly, his reflection caught in the polished cabin window. His voice was soft, measured. "You've mistaken silence for submission," he said. "That's a common error." The woman blinked. "Excuse me?" He leaned back again, eyes forward. "You'll understand soon." The captain's voice crackled through the speaker, smooth and routine. "Cabin crew, prepare for takeoff." But the words landed differently now, almost prophetic. The aircraft began to roll, the engines crescendoing into a restrained roar. She muttered, "Unbelievable," under her breath, loud enough for the world to hear. Marcus's phone vibrated once on the armrest. A text flashed. "Standing by? Confirm?" He typed a single word. "Yes." No one noticed. No one ever does when power doesn't need to announce itself. Outside the oval window, the sky widened, infinite, indifferent. Inside, tension coiled tighter. The woman sat 2 rows ahead now, still fuming, whispering to another passenger. "He's probably some upgrade mistake. They let anyone in first these days." Her companion chuckled nervously, trying not to be in the blast radius. Marcus opened his laptop again, fingers steady, face expressionless. On the screen, a live dashboard of corporate assets, flight maintenance, contracts, global partnerships, capital flow across 3 continents. One line blinked red, Airline Dynamics Holdings active. He hovered over it for a heartbeat, then tapped Disable Operations. Half a world away, in a glass tower overlooking downtown Atlanta, an alert flashed across a dozen monitors. Engineers looked at each other in confusion. "Sir, the main account just froze." The CFO frowned. "What? Who authorized that?" The assistant checked her inbox. "It's Marcus, his direct key, and it's Seiwano Rao." Back in the air, the plane leveled. The flight attendants began the ritual of luxury champagne flutes, folded linens, fragile smiles pretending nothing happened. But the air hadn't settled. It was thicker now, charged with something unseen. The woman's voice carried again. "Some people just don't know their place." A man nearby coughed deliberately. Another woman murmured, "That's enough." But she ignored them, her words dripping privilege. "I work with executives every day. I can tell who belongs." Marcus closed his laptop and looked out the window, the reflection of the clouds moving across his face. His patience wasn't silence. It was measurement. He wasn't just calculating altitude. He was calculating consequence. He remembered his grandmother's voice, the same tone that had guided him through years of dismissal and denial. "Never shout to prove your worth. Let the world trip over your calm." He exhaled slowly, almost a whisper. "Altitude reveals character." The man beside him glanced over. "Excuse me?" Marcus smiled faintly, just thinking out loud. Across the aisle, the attendant approached nervously. "Mr. Cole, can I offer you a drink?" "Water, please." "Yes, sir." "Still or sparkling?" "Still," he replied. "I've had enough turbulence for one day." The words carried more meaning than she realized. As she walked away, Marcus opened his messages again. The newest notification read, "Airline Ops. Confirmation received. All systems grounded. Airline partners contacted." He turned off his screen, closed his eyes, let the hum of the engines fill the silence. Outside, the horizon stretched endless and unbothered. Inside, one man sat quietly rewriting the order of an empire 30,000 feet above the people who thought he didn't belong there. And somewhere in the front row, the woman adjusted her seatbelt, blissfully unaware that the flight she'd claimed as priority had just lost the sky beneath it. 10 minutes into the flight, the atmosphere was colder than the air conditioning. No one spoke above a whisper. The clink of a champagne glass sounded like thunder. The woman in pearls kept stealing glances over her shoulder. She couldn't name the feeling clawing at her chest, not guilt, not fear, just a creeping awareness that maybe, somehow, she'd crossed a line she didn't understand. Marcus sat motionless, his phone face down on the tray table. He wasn't scrolling, wasn't watching. He was waiting, the kind of waiting that made arrogance nervous. From the corner of his eye, he saw a reflection on the glossy bulkhead. Passengers watching him, pretending not to. "Excuse me, sir," the flight attendant murmured. "The captain would like to apologize for any misunderstanding earlier." Marcus looked up, his voice calm. "Misunderstanding requires both sides to be confused." She faltered, then nodded, unsure if she'd just been forgiven or dismissed. 2 rows ahead, the woman rolled her eyes. Apologizing to him now? Unbelievable. The attendant's hands trembled as she adjusted a napkin. Marcus noticed and smiled faintly, not at her fear but at the irony of it all. The hierarchy of courtesy collapsing midair. He glanced at his watch. A message blinked in discreet gray text. "Airline Systems confirms. Airline liquidity suspended. CEO requesting callback." He swiped it away. Silent. Outside, the sky was an endless sheet of white. Inside, anxiety rippled beneath polished manners. A businessman leaned toward Marcus. "Sir, I just wanted to say, I saw what happened. It wasn't right." The deputy too won about. Marcus met his gaze, steady. "You didn't say that when it happened." The man flushed, eyes dropping to his untouched drink. "I didn't want to make a scene." Marcus nodded once. Neither did she. Yet here we are. The man had no reply. He turned back to his screen, his reflections staring back like gilt in glass. From the front, the woman's laughter returned brittle, performative. "Honestly, people are too sensitive these days. Everything's discrimination if you can't afford an upgrade." Her words carried just far enough for Marcus to hear. He didn't respond. The silence was heavier than argument. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. Your voice matters here. Now, back to Marcus. The seatbelt sign chimed on. Turbulence rolled through the cabin, subtle at first, then steady. The captain's voice returned. "Ladies and gentlemen, minor delay ahead. Corporate message from headquarters requires us to adjust course." Passengers murmured. "Adjust course? Mid-flight?" That never happened. Marcus's phone buzzed once more. "It's done." Airline accounts frozen. Bored in chaos. He exhaled slowly, eyes still closed. The hum of the engines began to sound like confession. The woman turned to her companion, anxious. "Why are we slowing down?" He shrugged. "Probably air traffic." But Marcus knew better. In the quiet between announcements, the universe seemed to balance its scales. Arrogance had been loud. Consequence, however, was always quiet, like pressure shifting in the cabin. Invisible but absolute. The woman adjusted her pearls again, unaware that the airline she defended, the privilege she flaunted, and the seat she claimed, all of it now belonged to the man she had tried to erase. Marcus's gaze drifted to the window. The reflection of clouds moved across his face like smoke. He whispered, almost to himself, "You just made a mistake." And for the first time since takeoff, she heard it, the same sentence from earlier, replaying in her mind, suddenly stripped of arrogance and full of meaning she didn't want to face. To everyone else, Marcus Cole looked like an ordinary passenger. Quiet, composed, expensive, but unassuming. To those who knew the name Airline Dynamics, he was something else entirely, a man whose influence didn't travel on private jets because he owned the sky itself. 15 years earlier, he had been the engineer nobody listened to, the one who designed an algorithm that cut fuel waste by 30%. When he tried to sell it to the same airline he was now sitting on, they laughed him out of the boardroom. Now that algorithm powered half their fleet, and Airline Dynamics, his company, owned the intellectual property rights that kept them flying. He remembered that meeting. The dismissive tone, the patronizing handshake, the same cold smile that said, "You don't belong here." Funny, he thought, some lessons never leave you. They just wait for altitude. Marcus had built his empire in silence, no press, no red carpets, no speeches. He believed power worked best when it didn't need to raise its voice. His employees called him the Ghost CEO. Investors called him indispensable. In the real-time market feed glowing faintly on his phone, Airline stock ticker pulsed steady. Below it, a second window showed the airline's symbol dipping, blinking yellow then red. The numbers were speaking a language only a few understood. Dependency. Across the cabin, the woman flipped through a magazine, her smile brittle, her voice still loud enough to fill the air. I swear, first class doesn't mean what it used to. Standards are gone. Her words scraped the silence like metal on glass. Marcus didn't turn. He simply opened a new message window. 2. Elena Reed, Chief Financial Officer. Subject: immediate freeze. Body: initiate full suspension of all Airline contracts. Ground operations pending review. He hit send. Somewhere 5,000 miles below, servers whirred, approvals cascaded, and the oxygen of a billion-dollar airline began to thin. In the cockpit, the captain's radio buzzed. A coded message from operations flashed on his monitor. Hold current course. Await instruction from Airline HQ. He frowned. That's odd. The co-pilot looked over. Airline? The maintenance contractor? Yeah. Why are they messaging us directly? Marcus could feel the shift not in the air, but in the balance of consequence. The same people who had taught him to wait were now learning what waiting costs. He looked down at the tiny reflection of himself in the laptop's metallic surface. Behind it, the clouds drifted like slow-moving marble. He thought of his grandmother again, the woman who scrubbed airport floors for a living and never once took a flight. She used to say, "Baby, if they don't see your worth, make it impossible for them to breathe without it." And that's exactly what he did. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe respect isn't given, it's earned and protected, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to Marcus. He leaned back, eyes half closed, as the intercom chimed. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unexpected systems update. Please remain seated. The woman laughed derisively. Systems update? Mid-air? How incompetent can they be? Her companion forced a smile. Probably nothing. But Marcus knew the sound of panic disguised as professionalism. He could hear it in the flight attendant's voice, see it in the captain's hurried walk down the aisle. The woman turned toward Marcus again, irritation bubbling back to life. You see, this is what happens when standards drop. Everything goes wrong. He opened his eyes, gaze cool, deliberate. Everything, he said quietly, is exactly as it should be. For a moment, her mouth opened, ready to reply, but she found no words. The silence that followed wasn't peace, it was pressure. And as the plane continued slicing through a sky he effectively owned, Marcus Cole, the man they dismissed, the ghost they mocked, was calmly pulling gravity back into his hands. At 30,000 feet, the cabin lights dimmed. A soft amber glow rippled across polished leather and champagne flutes. Everything looked calm, but the silence had changed flavor, no longer tense, but waiting. Marcus felt it too. The shift. The kind that comes right before the fall. His phone vibrated once, faintly against the armrest. The message was short. Confirm directive? He typed 2 words. Do it. Somewhere on the ground, in a high-rise wrapped in blue glass, Elena Reed, his CFO, didn't hesitate. Within seconds, Airline Systems began a silent cascade. Phase 1. Freeze all airline contracts. Phase 2. Suspend access to proprietary software. Phase 3. Revoke credit authorizations across maintenance, leasing, and fuel logistics. In less than 5 minutes, an invisible switch flipped across 5 countries. Engines still roared above the clouds, but on paper, every flight under that airline's name was now grounded. Marcus closed his eyes, resting his head against the seat. No one around him knew that a financial earthquake had just begun under their feet. The woman, the same one who demanded his removal, was now on her tablet, scrolling through flight gossip sites. She muttered, "Another delay? This airline's management is hopeless." Her companion leaned closer. "Says here," Airline pulled out of their partnership deal. She frowned. "Airline who?" Was it either one of her dat? Marcus turned his gaze from the window. "You'll remember the name soon enough." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in quiet justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories matter. Now, back to Marcus. He unbuckled slightly, reached for a napkin, and began to write not a note, not a message, but a calculation. Numbers, percentages, cascading losses. Each line was a consequence disguised as arithmetic. A voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've received notice of a temporary systems outage affecting our network. We'll be holding at cruising altitude while we confirm with ground operations. Whispers spread through the cabin like wildfire. Outage? Is that normal? No, not for them. The woman laughed, brittle and sharp. What a joke. Maybe they should hire competent people for once. Marcus didn't answer. He simply placed his napkin flat on the tray, looked up and met her eyes. You're right, he said quietly. Competence matters. So does humility. Her smirk faltered. Excuse me? You wanted this seat so badly, he continued. Now it's yours. Enjoy the altitude while it lasts. Something in his tone, calm but absolute, made the air itself feel thinner. She looked away, pretending to adjust her earring, but her hand trembled slightly. Below them, the airline CEO was on the phone, sweating through his collar as multiple reports hit his desk. Sir, all Airline-linked systems are offline. What do you mean offline? Grounded. Every maintenance license, every refueling clearance. Frozen by Airline itself. Get Marcus Cole on the line now. In the cabin, Marcus's phone buzzed again. Elena, it's done. They're calling already. He typed back a single reply. Let them. Wait. He set the phone aside, folded his hands, and watched as the clouds parted below. The sun broke through a line of gold cutting across his reflection. He whispered to himself, Justice doesn't shout. It lands. And as the engines hummed steadily, the airline that had once defined arrogance and privilege began its silent descent not from the sky, but from the illusion of untouchable power. The turbulence wasn't from weather anymore. It was human, subtle, controlled, and spreading. In the cockpit, the captain's voice was low but urgent. Operations isn't responding, he said, scanning the instruments. All our routing updates just vanished. The co-pilot frowned. That's impossible. Our systems run through aerodynamics. The captain exhaled slowly. Exactly. The absolute tells and Dexton selve you want today. Down in the cabin, the attendants whispered behind the galley curtain. Maintenance just recalled our dispatch codes. Mid-flight? They said everything's on hold. Every single aircraft. Marcus sat still, eyes closed, listening not to them, but to the rhythm of consequence. The sound of control changing hands. Meanwhile, thousands of feet below, in a boardroom of glass and panic, chaos erupted. Screens flickered with red alerts. Contracts suspended. System license revoked. Fuel authorities on standby. Who authorized this? Shouted the airline CEO, sweat darkening his collar. An assistant's voice trembled. Aerodynamics initiated the freeze directly, sir. He slammed his palm on the table. Then get Marcus Cole on the phone. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that name. Everyone also knew you didn't summon him. You waited for him to call. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and accountability, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to Marcus. In the air, the pilot emerged from the cockpit, his professionalism cracking under strain. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a temporary systems delay. Please remain calm. But calm had already left the room. Phones buzzed. The Wi-Fi flickered back to life, and news headlines began to load. Aerodynamics suspends airline contracts amid investigation. $700. Million deal frozen mid-flight. The woman in pearls looked up from her tablet, pale. Wait, this can't be real. Her companion whispered. It's the same Airline company you were mocking. She blinked, her lips parting. Why would they? Marcus turned slightly, voice even. Sometimes cause and consequence share the same cabin. 6'3" Wes and by Lankenimits. Same and gorging. Her throat tightened. Are you implying? I'm not implying anything, he said softly. I'm just watching balance restore itself. The attendant approached nervously. Mr. Cole, the captain asked if you could step forward. He said, you might know what's happening. Marcus rose, adjusted his cufflinks, and walked past her. The movement was simple, unhurried, yet every gaze followed him, as if the cabin itself shifted around his gravity. He stopped beside the cockpit door. Tell the captain the systems will resume once the truth does. The attendant blinked. Sir? Don't worry, Marcus said, eyes calm as the horizon. This plane will land safely. but some careers won't. Back on the ground, the airline's CEO stared at the live market ticker. The company's stock was plummeting. Board members were calling, journalists were circling, and over it all, a single notification appeared on his monitor. Incoming call, M. Cole. His hands shook as he answered. Marcus, thank God, there's been some mistake. There has, Marcus replied. You made it at the gate. The line went silent. Only the sound of quiet breathing and the hum of inevitability filled the space. Marcus, please, we can fix this. No, Marcus said. You can learn from it. Then he ended the call. Inside the plane, he returned to his seat. The woman stared at him, realization dawning like sunrise through storm clouds. You did this? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The intercom chimed again. Ladies and gentlemen, due to unforeseen circumstances, we'll be diverting for landing. Please fasten your seatbelts. Marcus gazed out the window, the city lights flickering far below. Every empire looks eternal right until gravity reminds it otherwise. The plane descended into silence so thick, even the engines seemed afraid to interrupt it. Phones buzzed like insects in the dark. One passenger gasped. Another whispered, "It's trending." Screens lit up across the cabin. Number, grounded by arrogance. Number, fly with dignity. Number, Marcus Cole. Someone had uploaded the entire confrontation, the woman's outburst, her finger stabbing the air, her sneer when she said, "Not you." The video had already crossed 2 million views before the wheels even touched the ground. A teenager in seat 2C whispered, "He's the CEO. He owns Airline." Another voice added, "That company just froze the airline's funding. Right now." A murmur swept the rows, awe, guilt, disbelief. The crowd that had once stayed silent was now scrambling to align with justice. The woman's hands shook as she tried to close her phone. The screen kept flashing headlines. Airline faces financial freeze after in-flight incident. Passenger identified as Marcus Cole, billionaire CEO. Stock falls 18% in 30 minutes. She turned to Marcus, voice trembling. You can't do this." He looked at her, expression still calm, like marble in motion. "I already did." The attendant approached again, voice quivering. "Mr. Cole, we'll be landing shortly. Ground control says your office has taken over communications." He nodded. "Good. It's safer that way. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you stand for justice over noise, hit like and subscribe." Now, back to Marcus. The captain's voice came through the intercom, steady but subdued. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed to divert to Chicago. Please remain seated." "It is not Ramaz of Closegal." Marcus caught the faint strain in his tone, the sound of a man realizing the air he flew in was owned by someone else. On the runway, media vans were already assembling. News outlets had connected the dots faster than turbulence spreads. A black CEO publicly humiliated, a $700 empire frozen midair, an airline collapsing before it landed. Inside the cabin, passengers whispered like a choir of repentance. "Did you see how she talked to him? She didn't even know who he was. She'll never live this down." The woman's face was drained of color. She kept her chin high, trying to reclaim dignity, but her eyes betrayed her. "I didn't mean," she started. Marcus interrupted softly. "You meant every word. You just didn't expect consequences to speak back." And Sloke, in Aided, the one of the in Duskins. A journalist seated in business class was already typing, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Flight 227 became the stage where privilege met gravity and lost. The Wi-Fi flickered again. Marcus's screen lit up. "Elena, press requests flooding in. Hashtags trending worldwide." He replied, "Let them. The story will teach more than I could ever say." He placed the phone down, looked out the window. Below them, storm clouds broke open streaks of lightning, tracing silver across the night. Every flash reflected on the cabin glass, illuminating faces that had once looked away from injustice, now forced to watch it unfold. The woman turned, voice small. "What happens now?" Marcus didn't smile, didn't gloat. "Now," he said quietly, "truth lands." The plane touched down with a hard jolt, rubber burning against concrete. Outside, cameras flashed, lights flared, chaos bloomed. But inside the cabin, Marcus Cole remained still, the eye of a storm he didn't need to raise his voice to create. As the seatbelt sign dinged off, the first passenger whispered what everyone else was thinking. He didn't shout. He didn't fight. He just ended them. And from somewhere deep in the internet's roar, a single comment rose to the top. Dignity doesn't shout, it recalibrates the sky. The plane had barely stopped taxiing when the captain's door swung open. He stepped out, face pale, voice tight behind a trained smile. "Mr. Cole, ground control is requesting to speak directly with you." Every head turned. The same passengers who had avoided looking at him now stared like witnesses at a man rewriting gravity. Marcus rose unhurried, adjusting his jacket. The soft rustle of fabric was louder than any apology could be. He stepped forward, walking down the narrow aisle where fear and curiosity shared the same breath. The woman in pearls tried to speak. "Wait, Mr. Cole, I didn't know." He stopped beside her row, his shadow spilling across her armrest. "Yes, you did," he said evenly. "You just thought it wouldn't matter." Her lips trembled. "I wasn't." He didn't raise his voice. "You were." The cabin held its breath. He turned toward the pilot. "Let's keep this professional, Captain. Bring me the phone." The pilot handed over the handset like a soldier surrendering his weapon. Marcus took it, his tone calm but absolute. "Elena," he said, his voice carrying through the still air. "Confirm full recall authorization." "Confirmed, sir," her voice replied faintly through the receiver. "All contracts terminated, their assets are frozen." "Good," he said, eyes fixed forward. "Then let's finish the flight and bat a pipe. And the inarrangeable is everyone round." The pilot swallowed. "Sir, with respect, this airline..." "This airline," Marcus interrupted, "forgot who kept its engines running." He handed the phone back. "Now it remembers. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you stand for quiet justice, hit like and subscribe." Now back to Marcus. He turned again to the woman. She looked smaller now, pearls no longer symbols of wealth, just beads of fear reflecting overhead light. "What you said back there," he murmured, "isn't new. I've heard worse in boardrooms. But arrogance has altitude limits. You just reached yours." Her eyes glistened. "Please, I didn't mean to offend you personally." Marcus tilted his head. "You didn't offend me. You revealed yourself." He walked back to his seat, the aisle parting like tide around him. The passengers followed his every step, not out of awe, but awakening. The world had shifted. A man they dismissed as someone else's mistake had just rewritten the laws of consequence. The captain's voice trembled through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to unforeseen operational issues, our airline will be temporarily halting all flights. We apologize for the inconvenience." Gasps spread. Phones came alive again. News alerts pinged from every device. Airline operations suspended indefinitely. Aerodynamics CEO terminates. $700M contract midair. Witnesses describe silent retaliation on Flight 227. The woman covered her face. Her hands shook as the reality settled. She hadn't insulted a passenger. She'd insulted the man who owned her flight path, her seat, her silence. Marcus leaned back, eyes steady on the clouds beyond the window. He spoke softly, to no one and everyone at once. "Dignity isn't given by status. It's reclaimed by stillness." No one dared reply. Even the engines seemed quieter, reverent. When the wheels touched the ground, Marcus didn't move immediately. He waited not for applause, but for clarity. Through the window, he saw the airline's ground crew frozen in confusion. Cameras flashed at the terminal. Reporters were already gathering, unaware that their headlines had just landed in silence. He finally stood, adjusting his cufflinks once more. And as he stepped off that plane, every phone in first class rose again. But this time, it wasn't to record humiliation. It was to record history. The morning after the flight, the world woke to headlines that read like parables. $700M airline grounded overnight. A black CEO silently redefines power. The flight that changed everything. And as a grassy giddity, clips from the plane flooded every social platform, the confrontation, the silence, the line that broke the internet. You'll remember this flight. Within 12 hours, the airline's stock dropped by 40%. The board issued a public apology, too late to stop the fallout. But Marcus Cole never spoke a word to the press. He didn't need to. His silence had already gone viral. Reporters camped outside Airline Dynamics' headquarters, hoping for a quote. When they finally caught sight of him, walking through the marble lobby in his navy suit, he stopped just long enough to say, "I don't cancel people. I cancel arrogance." Then he walked away, no entourage, no statement, just stillness that carried the weight of consequence. Meanwhile, the woman from the flight had vanished from public view. Her apology post appeared 2 days later, long, rehearsed, buried beneath a flood of comments, reminding her that humiliation isn't the same as accountability. Someone had rewritten the script she'd lived by, and the credits no longer named her as lead. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe calm is not weakness but wisdom, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to Marcus. A week later, Marcus appeared at a small press event not for revenge, but rebirth. Behind him, a banner read, "The Wings of Dignity Initiative." He announced a $50 million scholarship fund for underrepresented students pursuing aviation and aerospace engineering. For too long, he said, his voice steady, people were told they didn't belong in the sky. I'm here to remind them the sky belongs to everyone who dares to rise. In at 7, when the races sound, in 22-7 with a plime and our tassu rand. The audience rose in quiet applause. No roar, no spectacle, just respect. Reporters called it the calmest revolution in corporate history. Later that evening, Marcus stood alone at the hangar of his private jet, the same model as the one that carried his humiliation a week before. The engines purred softly, awaiting command. He looked out at the runway lights stretching into darkness, and for the first time, he allowed himself a small smile. He remembered his grandmother's voice. "Baby, if they don't give you a seat, build your own plane." He whispered to the night, "We're flying higher now." In the distance, a news chopper hovered, capturing his silhouette against the glow of the tarmac. The footage went viral again, not as scandal, but as symbol. One man, standing calm, in a world that had finally learned that silence doesn't mean surrender. Back online, the comments section under the video turned into a digital chorus. He didn't just ground a flight, he lifted a generation. Power isn't in shouting, it's in knowing when to let gravity do the talking. Dignity doesn't need permission. And somewhere between sky and earth, between pride and patience, the story of Marcus Cole became more than a headline. It became a reminder. That respect isn't demanded, it's demonstrated. That composure isn't weakness, it's control. And that sometimes the loudest justice is quiet enough to shake the world.